everyone. My name is Katie. I'm your today's host for SAV, Subtle Asian Voices. We are a YouTube collective where we emphasize experience on Asian Americans dating, social issues, and career and development. I have here two of my closest friends, Rachel and Michael. Rachel, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, I'm Rachel. I'm a data analyst at Prodigy. I've been a data analyst for a couple of years. I'm actually located in Toronto, and my favorite things to do currently during COVID is probably just sleeping and eating.
Awesome.
And hi, I'm Michael. I've grown up in Cleveland pretty much all my life, and I'm currently working here. So I'm a data analyst at KeyBank, downtown in Cleveland. And I would say my favorite thing to do, also eating, also sleeping, and maybe some guitar on the side.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for the intro, guys. To break it down, I forgot to introduce that in the beginning. This is going to be under the career and development segment of the channel, and we'll hop right into it. So you guys, okay, let's start with Rachel. So I know you guys are both data analysts, but Rachel, can you break down what exactly do you do, or how did you get into becoming a data analyst?
Yeah, so as I kind of said before, I'm a data analyst at Prodigy, and we're an ed tech company. I actually started in the company in sales, but I always knew that I wanted to be a data analyst because one of my majors is actually in analytics. So I was in sales for 3 months. I worked my way up to sales ops, and then a couple months after that, I became a data analyst. And typically in my day-to-day, a lot of it is talking with stakeholders on what kind of data they need to see, what questions they need to be answered, and ingesting or bringing in the data for them, as well as doing the transformations on the data so that they can have the proper visualizations and answer all the questions that they have. So yeah, that's typically my day-to-day.
Awesome. And how about you, Michael?
Yeah, so we are a bank, first and foremost, at KeyBank. And I just started my career after I graduated last year. So I've been working as a rotational data analyst for about 8 months now. And in my first 6 months of my career, I was mostly working on a range of projects with data, from like formatting the data to producing like consistent output, maybe produce some models for forecasting loss numbers for the bank. And then ultimately, like Rachel said, visualizations are very important. So just like explaining to non-data analysts and anyone inside the business, what do these numbers mean? How do we make it work for, in my case, the bank?
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, so let's see, having my little cheat sheet here so we can have good flow. Awesome. Rachel, you shared how you specifically got into data analytics. That was really awesome. Michael, feel free to share how you got into your current role. Take it away.
Yeah, so I have an unusual path to the world of data. I went to Case Western Reserve University for school in Cleveland, and there I studied chemical engineering. So not many chemical engineers in data or at a bank in general. But I kind of wanted to move away from chemi because I didn't really want to work in kind of traditional industries like polymers, oil, especially didn't want to work in that. So I wanted to learn how to make like very cool visuals and just show people what I can do with data. So made my way there, looked for some internships in college in data. So I did a internship at a Y Combinator startup out west called Goat. It's like a sneaker app. Some of you might have used it or like it. So that ultimately led me to Key. I think it gave me the qualifications for my job here. But I was interested in learning finance. A lot of application for modeling and visualizations with banks.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Okay, yeah, I guess to break it down further, the job responsibilities, feel free to bounce off of each other, because do you guys create like models or the data visuals, correct? I would love to hear, and for the audience to learn, what job specifics that you guys do the same of and what's different, because you guys are both data analytics, but in different fields and concentration companies.
I would say I think the core skills for like a data analyst are pretty similar, but again, like the requests will be pretty different depending on the stakeholder. So for me, I'm in an ed tech industry, so what type of models that I might build might be a little bit different from what Michael might build. I do some like forecasting models, kind of like what he said earlier, and a lot of the models that we look at focus on either churn reduction. So when we have someone buy a membership and they churn out of that, we want to make sure that we understand why they're churning and how we can reduce that. Or even with conversions, helping model out conversions in the future so we can predict how well the company is going to do. So yeah.
And
Yeah, definitely.
There's usually like not a miss, right? With those data and
The
stuff.
models.
It's pretty followed through on.
It should be followed through on. I think with data, it's not always 100% correct. Like I think you kind of get in what you put out, especially when you're doing some modeling. So if someone wants us to whip up something really quickly, it's not like we can just go in there and pull these numbers out in a day. Like it does take a lot of work. So it really kind of depends on the timeline and what the ask is for that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think for anyone to understand what this kind of job role is like, it's mostly like I can bring up an example at my previous internship. So this is a sneaker app that people use to buy and sell whatever Yeezys or Jordans they like. You know, every click you do in that app, that's just like a point of data that the company has. That's information they can use to maybe sell more to their customers, understand who they are. So one project I did was, I know where they're clicking in the app. How can we piece together all these different random clicks? These are our data points into a story of what journeys are they taking through the app when they buy something? Are they like, do they know what they want? They just go to search their exact shoe and buy it? Or do they kind of go through an exploration process, look at all these, oh, look at these featured shoes here. So that's kind of like an example of how a data analyst might think, and then use those data points to like create a solution for the business.
Neat. Awesome. I guess, can you guys share like what's your favorite part in being a data analyst?
I think my favorite part is working with the stakeholders and kind of helping them understand what they can achieve with data and what data can help them with. It's really great to see the transformation at the beginning from someone who is non-technical and doesn't really know what data is or how it can help them to when we deliver the final product to them and they have a better understanding and they're able to make educated decisions with the data that we give them. So that's definitely my favorite part.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I like being able to show anyone who, you know, people who don't code or people who are very business focused. I like being able to create a tool that they wouldn't be able to use or haven't thought of originally, and have them just understand it intuitively. Like they just look at it and they can see how it helps their life. So it's kind of bringing it outside of the data world that I enjoy, making it easy to understand.
Awesome. Cool. And awesome. Yeah. I guess, can I ask the opposite? Like, what's your least favorite part of being a data analyst? Could be technical or soft related, just for the ones out there listening, knows the ins and outs of being in this role.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, the hardest part of my job is actually communicating with the stakeholders and making sure that we're all on the same page. It's kind of, sometimes it kind of turns into something like a broken telephone, or when you're playing those games where you draw on someone's back and then the image comes out different with every person. So the communication there, when it gets broken down into its simplest form, is how like the data should come out, but it's not always how it does. So making sure that there is like a mutual understanding between what is expected to be delivered and the timeline is often very hard, and it has to be something that is like set in stone at the very beginning to make sure that everything gets delivered.
And I would say my maybe least technically favorite thing is probably making sure that whatever data table I'm using, the numbers are right. A lot of times when I build a tool, I think it's all great and it looks cool. And then I presented it to a manager and they're like, that's not right for this month. So I had to go back and just check and check and check.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. And okay, so you guys are both successful in your current roles. What do you guys think that makes you guys successful and be able to do a good job in your current analytics role? Rachel?
I would say it's quite a few things. One is just asking a lot of questions. I work with a lot of other analysts and scientists who are much more experienced than I am, so I try my best to learn from them. And the second thing is just doing your own learning and investigating. I think if you have the time to take up side projects and do that learning by yourself and do something that's fun for you, it helps you learn on the job and it helps you contribute more ideas to the team itself. So I would say those two things.
Nice. Yeah. I would say having a strong technical ability is always important. Like knowing how to program in SQL, things like that are just fundamentals, and they would expect that of any company would expect that of their hire. What puts you over the top is how you explain the data, how you explain what visuals you created, because a lot of people won't understand what's going on in your head when there's a lot of back-end stuff going on of how the data moves around. You have to be able to summarize in like 30 seconds how a table works or how your project works.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Awesome. Is there any specific like coding or tech related tips that you swear by? Like, oh, must know Python, or I don't know, in your guys' fields, like tech or any tips or even gear for those interested in analytics out there. It's kind of open field here.
Yeah, I would say kind of what echoing Michael said. SQL is definitely a very basic tool that you would need to know. It's not really a tip. But for me, when I was first learning SQL, I did a lot of things like leak code and codility quizzes. And it's not like the types of questions they ask aren't necessarily what you will like have in your day-to-day as a data analyst, but it's just good to have that basis. And also doing things like going and getting a data set on Kaggle and just doing some transformations on it yourself, whether it be in SQL and Python, to really help you gain more confidence in your coding skills before you actually get into it in your job.
And did your undergraduate degree introduce you to these programming languages or these codes, or was that kind of like once you got into your company?
For me, that was once I got into my company. So even though I was like an analytics graduate, or that's what my degree was in, a lot of what I learned was actually like in Excel and manipulating some of the different advanced functions in there. So I didn't really learn coding from there at all.
Mm, gotcha. And Michael.
Yeah, definitely what Rachel said is like projects, do your own projects, build your portfolio, but also just show what you're interested in. It teaches you the best when you're just like, you start this project with like, just like no idea what to do, but you know what you want. And then just, you go down this hard road of constantly figuring out that, oh, I can't do it this way, but that teaches you. And it shows, you can show that in a portfolio.
Okay. Any role models that you guys have when it comes to your field, or yeah, anyone that you look up to be a data analyst? I know you guys come from unique backgrounds, like a coworker or even like someone with bigger names at startup companies. How'd you guys have that drive or an inspiration to wanna emulate?
Yeah, I think for me, my previous manager and my current manager from when I was a data analyst are both huge role models to me. They're both extremely, extremely good at their job and what they do as like data scientists or analytics managers, but they're also very personable and they really care about the employee journey and what journey you take, which is something that I really admire about them because they have both the technical and the soft skill aspect. And then I guess like in a different setting, another role model that I really like that my manager actually introduced me to was Cassie Kozierkov. She's the chief decision scientist at Google, and she has amazing, amazing talks on like AI and ML, even just like the basics of data analytics. Her podcasts are so great, and I would highly recommend listening to her, reading her books.
Podcasts on all forms, Spotify?
I believe so, yeah.
Got it. What's your go-to platform to listen to her podcast?
I usually do Spotify. She has a couple of things on YouTube as well. So that's really nice.
Cool. I'll have to check her content out. I started I started practicing coding and stuff like that, not because of like a certain role model. I just thought like, this seems like a pretty good career. I know I don't want to do oil. I want to create cool visualizations, learn open source code. So that's why I started data science. So I wouldn't say I have any data role models that I like follow closely, but I do try to take inspiration from artists, like music creators like Kanye. I love Kanye. Always just gotta keep in mind like how you design whatever project you do. It's all about the output in the end, like how you help people, how you, in this case, like managers, business leaders, and even maybe consumers if your tool affects them. So visuals are very important. Nice design. Everyone's going to notice that, even just your PowerPoint presentations.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And I know like you guys do your projects at your work. Do you guys do any like side projects that you guys do for fun to hone in your skills or to make you guys stronger analysts? I don't know. How about it, Rachel? Or after you're in school or you have to do continuing education?
Yeah, so for me, I'm currently at a place where I want to expand a little bit more of my skills. So maybe go into either like the scientist or the engineering route. So what I'm doing right now is just taking a couple of courses, specifically more on the engineering side, so I can learn more a little bit about backend, how the data gets ingested, more of the cleaning techniques and building the pipelines. And I think further down the road, I'll get more into the advanced modeling route. So I think continuous learning is a huge thing. In terms of side projects, I would say just taking those interests, whether it be in like analytics or the scientist route or the engineering route, and setting aside like an hour a night to work on something that you like truly enjoy and that will help build your skills. I think that's probably the best option.
Nice. Yeah. So maybe like how we mentioned before, projects are really good to show like your interest and your capability in data. I'm like doing this. I connect to the Robinhood API for anyone who uses Robinhood out there. Basically, this API lets you buy, sell, see all your history, all of that, which you can access on Python. So I just have the fundamentals. I played around with it. I downloaded my order history and all that. And I think a fun thing I'm going to do next is make like some fun website or a quick app that's like compare yourself to the S&P 500 index and show a graph of the, in this case, it's called a time-weighted return. Because Robinhood, it does have like a graph, but it counts your deposits and your purchases, like outflow of cash in that. So the returns are a little bit off. It tells you mostly how much your net worth has grown over time. But compare yourself to the S&P 500. That's a little fun thing I was going to create.
Yeah, that's really neat.
So cool.
Can't wait to see that. Actually, I got the privilege to see a little bit of that, so can't wait to see over the long term how that could be a good tool for either personal or if you're gonna share it. Very neat stuff there. Cool. A little off topic of analytics. If you guys were not in analytics, like myself, I didn't know about analytics until I met Rachel, or at least know kind of the backbone details of it until like 2017. So I want to ask you guys, like, what other professions would you guys be doing if you didn't even know about analytics?
It's a hard question. I don't know, Michael, do you want to go first for this one?
Oh, sure. I guess I would be a chemical engineer by now. So I used to intern at Procter & Gamble. I had like a traditional chemical engineering research and development internship. And it's a nice route to go down. And I still have a bunch of friends who are very happy in it. One, I didn't like the location in Cincinnati. I'm a Cleveland boy at heart. And then two, I really wanted to learn open source code because I thought it was cool. I thought there's so much you can do. I heard all these buzzwords like machine learning and AI. And once you start playing around with it on your own, you realize that's all, it's all possible and anyone can do it if they just like put in the time. So I'd be a chemie.
Got it. And when did you first hear about analytics? Like me, I didn't hear about it until like 2016, 2017. Like that wasn't even introduced as like an option for me.
That's a really good question. Yeah, I don't think my undergraduate school case, I don't think it had any really specific like data analytics like major. I don't remember when I heard about it, maybe sophomore year of college, but if you are interested in it and you are entering some kind of college degree, maybe like a coding background, like computer science, even math, applied mathematics, or even engineering, electrical engineering. I wouldn't recommend chemie for that. Those are all good majors for it.
Okay, to go into data analytics role.
Yes.
Cool. And Rachel, since you did one of your majors was analytics, how did you like hear about it or like got to even want to put that down on your resume or go in that field?
So my freshman year of college, when I was in the College of Business, one of my actually my sophomore year when I was in cluster, which is just basically a bunch of different business courses in one semester, one of my cluster teachers actually told me that they were starting a new major, like for analytics or a co-major. And since I only had one major at the time and a minor, I figured it would be a good idea for me to pick it up since I could finish it in 4 years. And she had been like such an inspiration of mine. She's such a great professor. So I'm like, yeah, I think this will be good for me. So that's where I first heard of analytics itself as a major. We did have MIS, which is Management Information Systems. And that was a little bit more technical. But for me, it wasn't feasible to finish in 4 years, which is why I didn't pick that one up.
Yeah, and our close mutual friend Vinny was the
Yeah.
one that introduced us to each other, and he was in MIS, and
Yeah.
he showed me that ways, but I didn't realize analytics was like a new introduced program to the business cluster.
Yeah.
And yeah. Oh, for the audience out there, we met in college, and I was not in the business school, but I was on track for a business minor. I was missing like 2 classes. But yeah, so we had some overlap. Okay, neat. Yeah, so that had the backbone of questions. Hopefully that didn't jump around too a lot. I want to take this time now just to like have candid conversations, see whatever pops up. Do you guys have any other like advice for those wanting to go into the space? Again, you guys both came from unique backgrounds. I think that's really cool that you could tap into such a growing field, and that's going to be good long term as well. Yeah, especially for like someone it's pivoting or swapping. So should they like code on their own? Is there any websites you guys recommend? I know when I was trying to tap into coding, a little influenced by Rachel here, with Python or Java, I was going on udemy.com, but I didn't last like a course at all. I just plugged in maybe 2 hours, 3 hours into each of those coding classes and was like, okay, it's not for me. Feel free to share for those in the audience wanting to go into data analytics.
Yeah, so I think for me, if you already have a job that's not in analytics, I would say moving internally is a lot easier than trying to find a new job at a new company. That's actually how I got my job. So I went from sales to sales ops to analytics. And I think showing an interest in analytics from being in that sales ops position really helped me. And also not necessarily trying to be friends, but communicating more with the data people at your company or on your team and showing that explicit interest will really help you get an understanding of what the role entails and what sort of acumen you would need to get into that role. Because again, like even though we're both analysts, we might have different skill sets or the role might entail different things. So it really does depend from company to company.
Yeah, it is nice to use resources that you have, like coworkers, professors, or even just friends. If you're just starting out, have no idea how to code whatsoever, that's totally fine. I would recommend maybe finding a buddy, having them that knows how to code, having them send you some resources. I can throw a few out. Rachel mentioned Kaggle.com. This is like a data website. It has a bunch of different like examples of projects with the data set that you're gonna use. A primary one is called the Titanic like data set. So this is like something that managers sometimes throw out for like an interview or like a case study. Basically the Titanic data set has some records. I don't know if they're like accurate or not, but just a bunch of records of passengers and then the outcome, whether they survived or not. And it's up to you to do your research. There's a whole bunch of resources on the web about that data set, the Titanic one, how you build a model around it, and just learn from there. So that's one example of how you might go about this, but Kaggle's a great website for that.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, let me see what else we got here. Cool. Feel free. I think we might wrap up. We had a good grasp on that. Hope that was a good episode for those listening out there. Feel free to share any plugs. I don't know if you guys are social media savvy or if you guys have like your tech stuff. Have that opportunity to share what the audience can look out for your guys' public stuff. If not, that's it from me. And yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have anything. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Katie. Also,
Cool.
for anyone out there, take a look at data science too. Data science is different than data analytics. It makes a lot more money, but it requires a lot more education. So there's pros and cons to it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yep. And we are closing. And be sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Bye now.
Thanks. Bye.